Hello, everyone. This is Alternative Revelations with Linda Emanuel, and this is podcast number 49. This is an update on the coronavirus. I have a lot of information to share. It won't be very long, but I have some more countries to add to the list that will be targeted. Also, I have attached the U.S. patent to the coronavirus in the description of the podcast. I will also post the patent for the coronavirus that is owned by the CDC, our own government, the United States of America, Incorporated, and it will be there for your reading. So I have to say this disclaimer that this podcast is for informational purposes only. If it resonates with you, so be it. If not, just disregard this podcast. And now I can begin the podcast. And I'll begin from the beginning. Last year, if you listen to podcast number 15, last year in June, the Fiji Islands and Dominican Republic there were bioweapon tests being done on these areas, and the victims died very quickly. And one of the telltale signs of a bioweapon test is when the CDC goes in to document. They were documenting how these people died and the results, etc. So this is when Spirit alerted me to the bioweapon test and that this was being tested, and they were planning on unleashing it. And then on June 9th, I got the green light that they were going to put it in the flu vaccine of 2020. So then I came out with a podcast in July about it, telling the countries that it was going to be targeted, and at that time it was not going to be targeted at the U.S., and I do not have an explanation for this. But now I'm going to give you a lot of information about this coronavirus, how it was invented and what it really is, and everything about how to, you already know how to protect yourself from it because it is encased in a mycoplasma. So here goes. And I really do suggest that you listen to podcast number 20 for more detail about the 1918 Spanish flu virus that killed 95% of the victims between the ages of 18 and 35. Now, our government sponsored in 1997 an expedition up to Alaska to dig up a woman who had died of the 1918 Spanish flu influenza. And she was in the permafrost, perfectly preserved. It was like putting a virus in the deep freeze. So they dug her up, they probably brought her back, and they got a hold of the virus, and it took them, now I want you to really carefully listen to the years and the sequence here. It took them 6 years to get the code, the DNA or the RNA code of this virus. Then, in 2007, they got the patent on the coronavirus. And also, I know that you cannot get a patent unless an organism is brand new and usually man-made. And Spirit informed me that the coronavirus, the origin of the virus, is rooted in the Spanish flu influenza virus of 1918, which was very lethal. And again, listen to podcast 20, and I will explain why the 1918 flu virus was so lethal. So then in 2008, they planned on putting this organism into the flu vaccine in 2009, and enough people found out about it that it was stopped. And I suggest that you again listen to podcast number 20. It goes into a lot of detail about what was going on with the Spanish flu influenza virus. Now, this podcast is about the motive behind the 5G, and the 5G does stimulate this organism. It's the most interesting podcast. I loved doing this podcast because I did a lot of research on it. So getting back to the story. So I'm going to read you a little bit about this patent. It's patent number US 7,220,852 B1. and the assignee is the United States of America, is represented by the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Washington, D.C. This is the assigned owner of this patent, the coronavirus. And also, for your information, Spirit has informed me that this bioweapon was developed at Fort Detrick, which is the headquarters for our U.S. bioweapon program. Now, this coronavirus was what originated with the Spanish flu virus of 1918. So again, if you pay attention to the timeline, it totally fits in with the digging up of the Spanish flu influenza virus of 1918, cracking the code, modifying the Spanish flu influenza virus of 1918, and creating a brand new man-made virus, getting the patent on it in 2007, trying to unleash it in 2008, and now it comes up to the year 2019, testing it in the Dominican Republic and the Fiji Islands on unsuspecting victims who were totally innocent and unaware of what was going on, and where they were planning on unleashing it in a flu vaccine in 2020. And this is when Spirit alerted me to this in June of 2019. So if you listen to my last podcast, you know that they could never just unleash a virus like the 1918 flu virus, because they will be susceptible to it also, and they don't want to take the chance. But in the meantime, once AIDS was invented, and AIDS was another virus that they created, and they put it in a mycoplasma. AIDS is actually a cross between mycoplasma and the Visna virus, which causes mad cow disease, or Creutzfeldt-Jakob. So what they have done is they have put this man-made coronavirus into a mycoplasma. This way the elite will be able to protect themselves. And I have left links on Wikipedia where you can research what fusion inhibitors are. It's a most interesting story how they invented it, and I really urge you to read up on it. It's most interesting. Now back to the podcast. So again, this is just a heads up about the coronavirus. You can read the patent, but also know that this coronavirus is encased in a mycoplasma, therefore it becomes vulnerable, and if you know how to kill mycoplasma, you can be safe. And now I'm going to list some more countries that are not and are going to be targeted with chemtrails that will include the mycoplasma weaponized with the genetic material of the coronavirus. Spirit has told me the only country in South America that will be targeted is Brazil. Now, also, Spirit tells me that Japan is not going to be targeted, Indonesia is not going to be targeted, and the Philippines are not going to be targeted. And lastly, New Zealand will not be targeted. So, in conclusion, this coronavirus is a man-made virus which originated with the Spanish flu influenza virus of 1918. And the following does not surprise me at all. Spirit informed me that the type of mycoplasma that the coronavirus has been placed into is Mycoplasma pneumoniae, and that's the one that attacks the respiratory and the lungs. In fact, there are about 100 different types of mycoplasma, and this particular one is very, very deadly. Regular doctors know about Mycoplasma pneumoniae. You can look it up for yourself on Wikipedia, or just Google it, Mycoplasma pneumonia, and you'll see it. And that makes perfect sense why they would put it into this mycoplasma, because it targets lungs and the respiratory system, just like some mycoplasma focus on the urinary tract and others focus on joints. And again, fusion inhibitors will protect the elite. And something very interesting, Spirit informed me if you listen to the last podcast, for some reason, they're not going to target Great Britain. And the reason they're not going to target Great Britain, this is where Queen Elizabeth and the family live. They are not going to target Great Britain because of the royal family. So I hope this was educational. I hope all my podcasts are informational and worth listening to. So in the meantime, be alert, be aware, prepare, and be safe. So until next time, good night and God bless.